Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and Warhammer 3 is one of my favourite games. I think that's fairly obvious considering that I post about it near daily, constantly talk about it, constantly play it, and yes, in some cases also complain about it. This is because I want to see this game be improved and be the best that it could be. Now it's very obvious that the next DLC is going to be a little bit of time away, as Creative Assembly have said that it's going to be near the end of this year. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because that means that we could end up seeing more patches in the interim. And because of that, I've been thinking about quality of life changes that Creative Assembly could make to the game just to make the game even better than it already is. At the end of the day, we all want some fixes coming in, especially for certain things that we've all been asking for since pretty much the inception of this franchise. But before we begin, we do have to mention one thing. While the majority of these issues can indeed be fixed with mods, it shouldn't be left up to mods to fix up the problems of the game. Yes, I heavily use mods, I always do mod reviews and so on, but those are for extra content. When it comes into quality of life fixes, same as bug fixes, those should be baked into the vanilla aspect of the game and not under the reliance of modders. Obviously, we should be incredibly thankful for the modding community for fixing up issues like, for example, well, recruit defeated legendary lords, which is actually slowly coming into vanilla. But let's be honest, that should have been a core feature since day one. But let's get started. The first thing I'd like to see is being able to queue up skill points for characters. So a lot of the times you're going to be recruiting the same lord type over and over, and let's be honest, in most cases you're going to be going for some of the same skills because they are objectively better. Being able to recruit a lord and then queue up the skill points that you'd like would work really well here, because if you're going to be playing, say for example, Khorne, where you've only got the Chaos Lord of Khorne so far, yeah, it's likely going to be the same skill points all the time. Or if you're just recruiting loads of lords in different provinces, having a preset would be fantastic here, because if you're recruiting with the Empire, a Master Engineer, a General of the Empire, and then an Archlector, having presets for each of the different lord types would actually make your turns go a lot faster if you're going for the same specific skills. I think this is something that could be done. It's been done with a mod before. It is a little janky every now and then, but nonetheless it does make campaigns go a little quicker for you, and one of the important things is when you get into later campaign and you've got loads and loads of characters up and running, it does become a little daunting doing skill points for like 12 characters after you've fought a number of battles, and sometimes you just skip them altogether, or maybe that's just me. Keeping on making your game go a little bit faster, well, what about end-turn diplomacy? Now, you might be thinking, no, there's not going to be a diplomacy rework and so on. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying about when you get to the end turn, in some cases, you just want the turns to go quick, right? But every now and then, depending on how much of the map that you've actually unlocked, you might get some notifications during your end turn times. This is faction declaring war on you, factions asking for non-aggression pacts, asking for trade agreements, all that type of stuff. Well, what if there was an actual panel on the side of the screen, which is pretty much where you see a bunch of your options anyway, some of you might not know that this exists, where you could actually skip some things, so it'll just automatically be clicked for you. So if factions are declaring war on you, well, yeah, why do I need to have a notification? I know. It pops up in a notification when the turn starts anyway. There could also be panels done by alignment, chaos, destruction, undeath, and order, where you could then decide skip all notifications from chaos factions, but not from the order factions, just in case you would want a trade agreement with the Empire, but you don't want to deal with the pop-ups from chaos factions coming at you. If you want to ignore them all, well, yeah, that could be the option of that, and you can decide accept all trade agreements, accept all non-aggression pacts, all that type of stuff. So if you've decided to end the turn and go get a drink whilst the turn is ending, you won't come back to 2 factions in, someone's picked up a notification, and that's it. The next thing is, I think, something that a lot of people have been asking for: finally fix up the anti-player bias. So for those of you not aware, this game does have a baked-in anti-player bias, meaning that factions will tend to focus on the player rather than even the weaker factions right next to them that could be taken out with one foul swoop. Wouldn't even take that much effort, to be honest. It happens, and it becomes very annoying because it's not even this is on the hard, very hard, and legendary difficulty. It happens in pretty much every difficulty. You might have noticed this and thought that was weird, but it happens. A perfect example would be as you start building up your faction and the negatives start coming in, you might be playing as the Empire and notice that Malice Darkblade is coming down for you, even though he's still not even set foot in Norsca as an aggressive faction, but now he's starting to go through Norsca all the way down into the Empire and deal with you. It's just a basic example. I know it's happened to a lot of people, It does catch people by surprise, and if you're not prepared, it can derail your campaign. This usually means that you might just decide, hey, this area of my territory is not protectable, I'll have to either reform somewhere else or start a new campaign, because those cities that were just taken over with no defense were unfortunately my infrastructure cities. It happens. Believe me, it's not just you. Very recently I've seen it with Malachi completely ignoring the territories of Norska to go and fight me when I was trying to give Daniel a chance. Why would he come straight for me when literally Frog and the minor Norscan tribes over there could be dealt with and he could build up from there? The AI makes some very weird decisions here. Coming in with an edit here because I've just remembered this as I was finishing off this video. Yeah, quest battles need to be auto-resolved. I don't know why they can't be. It's just super weird. At this point, we've played these quest battles hundreds and hundreds of times. It's a feature that really should be here now. Naturally, it depends on what army you have, if you can auto-resolve it or not, because you're not going to jump in with a shitty army and stuff. But at the end of the day, yes, this really needs to be done, because it's really frustrating having to do the same battles that I've been playing since Warhammer 1. I get the theme, and it's cool to do them for nostalgia purposes, but just give the option, it would be better. Now, for this one, it's already being done, but at a very slow pace. I'm talking, of course, about being able to recruit defeated legendary lords. So technically they started implementing this with the Champions of Chaos, but not really, because you have to beat the other faction to confederate them. This is the same thing with like the Orcs and the Greenskins. The only time that we've actually seen a proper recruit defeated legendary lords, I believe, is through Thrones of Decay, where with the Dwarfs you're able to now revive factions by taking the lords for yourself. This is a massive push forward, but the problem is it only sorted it out for the dwarfs, where really, you know, the Empire could have benefited from that too, so could the Nurgle factions or the 3 main factions alongside that DLC. Creative Assembly have stated in the past that they'd like to do this more, but I'd love to see this in as much content drops as possible. Not just DLCs, but in patches. If it's possible, just introduce it for one faction here and there, and during a DLC, all the factions involved in the DLC should really have this implemented for them. It's allowing people to play Pokemon, which they very much do like. We're going to consider this one a minor bonus, and mostly because it's faction specific, but please, for the love of God, if anyone from Creative Assembly is listening, please make demon princes and also exalted demons immortal as soon as you dedicate. The fact that I have spent all my time leveling up a character, gearing them out, and having them of course ascend to demonhood or exalted demonhood, and then they've gone down to like rank 7 or whatever, losing out on potential buffs, skills, and so on, only to then be killed off because, I don't know, bad choice, bad army, ambush, whatever. It's actually fairly frustrating. Now, I understand that this could lead to some broken stuff, so maybe put the Ascension a little bit later down the line, but it's just kind of frustrating because what I tend to do now is hold off for 10 turns and do that repeatedly until that character gets to the threshold where I know when they ascend, they'll then have the immortal trait. It becomes extremely frustrating, especially with all the pop-ups that come in, especially if you've got loads of characters up and running. I usually run quite a few armies. And I'd rather not lose Alberto the Bloodthirster because he is no longer a herald, you know? It gets a little bit annoying. Now, this last one is technically content, but does fall under the whole quality of life situation. More maps. I know I've talked about this in the past, and I'm going to keep talking about this until, you know, Creative Assembly actually do something about it. But the massive issue here is that a lot of places in the Warhammer world, when you play in Immortal Empires, has a very massive lack of maps, be it some battle maps, or in some cases, minor and major settlement maps where, for example, Bretonnia has the same maps over and over again, so it becomes an absolute slog to go and destroy Bretonnia, because you're going to be dealing with the same things over and over again. Repetition becomes a massive fault in this game, and obviously, were it not for mods like GCCM, I would be struggling to play through the campaign certain times depending on where I go. Same thing with the Tomb Kings, they have very little maps. It's something that they've been adding slowly in the most recent patch in 5.0. They did add in some Chaos Waste maps, but again, those are coastal Chaos Waste maps, right? And most of them are using the same framework as stuff that we've already got. It's more an asset flip than a new map. We need to start seeing some proper variety, or else it's just going to get too much of the same. What's going to happen when we start going into Ind and Koresh if they ever open up those areas, not for race packs, but to have those areas for minor factions and DLC lords of other races? If they have the same maps as Cafe and the Empire and so on, it's going to get very boring very quickly. I think the Bretonnia and the Tomb King ones are the biggest one for me because I've been playing Bretonnia on stream recently, and then the Tomb Kings in my own personal campaign, and it's the same thing over and over. I think the Tomb King maps are literally just asset flip Cafean ones too. But these are my 5+1 bonus of the quality of life changes I'd like to see sooner rather than later in Total War Warhammer 3. What do you guys think? You've probably got some other ones which you feel are more important. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion, because it's important to talk about these things. As you've noticed, Creative Assembly have stated that they want people to be vocal about what they feel needs to be changed, upgraded, or even just, you know, overhauled. These types of things are important for the longevity of the game, and hopefully we can see these fixes coming in. With all that being said, guys, have a great day, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.